Okay, so here's a bit of a close-up of the 5.5-inch optical drive bay, which I am going to be removing. From what I can see, it's only riveted in by this group of rivets all along the top here, and there's a couple up on the inside in here. I'm going to be drilling them out with my trusty power drill, and I am going to be using this. Pretty sure you can use any sort of drill bit, but this was $4 on special, so I bought them. I'll see how it goes. Simple as that. That's all you have to do, and then you see the rivets actually end up on the end of your drill bit. Like that. Drilled out, and there is little to no damage in the hole. Okay, so this is the last rivet, and it should just drop out. That's it, should drop free. Perfect. So that's the 5.5. It's still solid as a rock without that little bit. The motherboard tray's probably got a little bit of flex in it now, but it doesn't matter anyway. I am going to have to Dremel all of this off, or bend it back. I'm also going to bend this motherboard, sorry, the power supply thing down again, because like I said, this whole back piece is going to be a piece of flat acrylic, nice and clean, backlit, and I'll be drilling my own holes in it for the connections as I need them. Might mount the radiator in there and see what it looks like. Okay, so here is the radiator I'm using, XSPC AX360. Got two of them in white to go into this bad boy. Now the issue I have is I would like this one mounted in the roof, preferably with the connections at the rear, and I would like the second one mounted in the front with the connections at the bottom. Would be perfect. Something like that. If I can balance it there. Now you'll see this case has a, if I can focus on it, a little bit of a lip on the inside there, which I find strange considering I thought this was designed to take radiators up the front. I think I might be wrong. I think it might have been designed to take radiators on the floor. So I'm going to grind them off to get it nice and flat. The second problem I have is, if you look here, the holes don't line up because the base is flush with the bottom because of, give me a second, these. Easy done, I can grind them off, no dramas, and I think that'll give me about 3mm, which I want to drop down just so I can line all the holes up with those, if you know what I mean. It'll sit something like that. Okay, outside into my working area, which happens to be a cardboard box. I'm just going to use the trusty Dremel to grind these bits off to give the radiator a bit of clearance on the bottom there. I don't have any grinding pieces, so I'm just going to use a Easy Lock metal cutting piece and sort of hopefully try and, if I put my hands up through here, try and cut it on an angle like this. Okay, so you can see I have dremeled off the nice and smooth now. I've hit it with a wire brush so it's nice and smooth. I've got rid of these little nipples, so it gives me a little bit more clearance for the radiator. Like I said, it doesn't matter what it looks like because it's probably going to get a white acrylic floor. But for now, I've just got this little bit of foam that was in the case just to protect the radiator when I'm putting it in. I don't want to ruin the white finish. Now, I have found a problem with mounting this 360 in the front is the fan spacing. Fan spacing on this is 15mm, which means if you mounted the fans, they would be perfectly flush together. However, the holes on the front of the case are not 15mm. You can see if you went like that, the next hole, there'd be that much of a gap in between. If you see what I mean. So basically what I've decided to do is this, like I said, is going to be mounted in the case. You've got to be careful with this because I've found that the white powder coat scratches very easily. I'm going to mount it off the front. So the center fan will be mounted on with the screws going through into the radiator, and then I'm just going to re-drill these holes slightly up. So the fan would be mounted rather than here, it will be mounted here and through into the radiator, and re-drill new holes on that so it'll be mounted on that. It is a very tight squeeze down here. Okay, so here's the front. I've drilled new holes. I changed my mind. I was going to use the original holes, and like I said, the radiator mounted off the center and then adjust the bottom holes, but I decided to adjust all of the holes. So I ruled it all up, as you can see, and moved the center fan from its original mount up 4mm, which will give me 4mm of extra clearance at the bottom, so I shouldn't have any fouling issues. And then moved the bottom holes up 8mm to account for the 4mm gap that used to be in the middle. So now it's 15mm spacing, 4mm up higher, up off the base from where it used to be. Only problem is now there is no, the top fan is not mounted to the case at all because it overhangs. So the top fan is only mounted direct to the radiator, and then the radiator is held onto the case by being sandwiched between the two lower fans. I don't think it'll have an issue. Okay, progress. All the holes are drilled. Radiator is now mounted, so I've got these ones are sandwiched between the case and into the radiator, and this one is not actually on the case, it's just on the radiator with some rubber grommets to make it the same distance. 360, because I raised it up, I've now got 4mm of clearance in there, which hopefully will give me enough for the acrylic floor plate. Alright, so here we are with the front plate on. Fits perfect. Obviously I've lost the 5.5-inch drive bays, but who uses them nowadays anymore? Anyway, okay, next thing I'm going to do is flatten out the little lip along the edge here. I don't know if you can make it out in the video. That's going to be pretty easy. I'm just going to grind with the Dremel along the back there and get that off. I was thinking I could probably even grab it with pliers and try and bend it, but I don't want to move the motherboard tray, bend the motherboard tray at all. So I'm probably just going to grind it along the edge there until that whole bit comes off. And these little tabs here can be bent. That's to give the acrylic backplate something to stick to nice and flat. Also, I've maskered up the 5.25-inch bay. Used to be like that. Obviously, I've just cut it along the bottom there, and I'm going to re-rivet that in the side here because I'm just going to have to grind off these little lips as well, but I've realised that I can rivet that back in and it'll provide a little bit more structural sort of support. Okay, so here is the case fresh off the Dremel. I just removed the two lips that were on the outside of the motherboard tray here and fold them down so it's nice and smooth. It's a different colour because it was rolled over when it was powder coated. It's obviously missed that. I've also tidied up the side of the drive bay, so I got rid of all those lips that the bays used to be on and fold them down, and tidied up the cut at the bottom. That, sorry, bear with me, is going to be re-riveted in here, like this, so it actually clicks in there. Going to be re-riveted like that to give it a bit more structural integrity and something for the back panel to be bolted to. Okay, rivet time. Rivets I'm using are these. They are blind rivets, multi-grip open aluminium, and they're black already, so I don't even need to paint them. It doesn't matter anyway, it'll all be hidden, but these are the exact same price as aluminium ones, so I've got black ones. Rivet gun I'm using, you can get them anywhere. This is cheap. I can't even remember how much it cost me. $15 or something, I think. Different nozzles for different sizes. Like I said, we're using 3mm. Okay, to rivet it, you just get your rivet, you place it in the end of the rivet gun, and you place the rivet where you want it to go. Simple as that. And then you ratchet it. Nice. I find to do it nice and slowly sort of makes it fit perfectly. And that hasn't gone the whole way, so you just need to take another bite. It's like a ratchet sort of system. And it'll click, and there's the rivet. Okay, and there it is, all riveted back in. Just the side of the drive bay. It's all nice and smooth, gives it a bit more structural integrity. There's certainly not as much flex in it as there used to be. Still wobbles a little bit on its feet, but I can fix that up with some fine tuning later. And that's it, you can see it's pretty flush along there. What I'm going to use is one of the drive bay covers, which is just a flat piece of aluminium. I'm going to cut it up and rivet it where the drive bay used to be, because the holes are already pre-drilled. Something like that, and cut it to size so it fits around the fan perfectly. A bit more structural integrity. I'm hoping that once that's all bolted in, it'll be so solid at the front that I can probably even remove this center bar if I cut it there and there for a bit more airflow. Okay, so there is my bracket that I made for the front of it. Sorry, it's a bit difficult to see it. So I just riveted in, it's the front of a drive bay, wait for it to focus, and you can sort of self-explanatory how it works. Now, bear with me, this is the front of it. And my rad goes in. If you line up the holes, basically it's supported up the front here as well. Looking good if I do say so myself. Okay, so this is the front of the case. I'm going to try and remove this lip so the radiator can be flush mounted to it. So I'll move this with the me doing this case mod, I'm certainly not a professional, as you can tell by my awesome grinding work, but I've just worked out a way to do this a lot easier. If you go back to the other video, you'll see how it doesn't look it, but it's actually very smooth, and once it's painted it will look a lot better. But I use the Dremel to ground these little nodule nipple things off, and I've just worked out a much better way to do it, and you'll end up with a nice clean hole like that with nothing to grind. And that is to use one of these stepping drill bit. Pretty easy to understand how it works. All it does is step in one bit at a time and makes the hole get wider and wider and wider, and so I've turned that into that. I'm trying to make this base as flat as possible, just this section here, so I need to remove that one and that one, and I'll show you how I did it with the drill bit. Drill bit goes in, bear with me. There you go. I think it actually needs to go one more even. There you go. Then I'll just flip it over, and you'll end up with it sticking out, and you just use the drill bit to to clean that up. There you go. Let me just run it one more time. Perfect. So you end up without that nipple there. Alright, so here it is with a cardboard template in there that is going to be the size of my backplate. Acrylic it'll be cut out of, 3mm. Right now it's out of cardboard. But basically that is the way it's going to be. Still haven't decided what's going to go on down here. Probably continue to put another acrylic piece down there. Not sure if I'm going to do an intake fan or maybe even a 120mm rad. There is not going to be a 120mm rad on here, I've decided, just probably an intake fan. I'm just building up the courage now to cut this out of acrylic. Okay, so I got a new toy today. The Dremel 300 series I was using just died on me, so went out and bought a Dremel 4000. This one's got a bit more grunt, so hopefully it might cut through this thing a little bit easier. That Dremel 300 I was using was about maybe 3 or 4 years old, so I can't complain. And I did use the living crap out of it, so I spent a bit more money this time and got the better model, 4000. Alright, let's see how it goes hacking up this thing.